watch this video. I had someone tell me this was rage bait. TTVE_thin. I want to make this very clear. If you don't like something about Wuthering Waves, that is not rage bait. I will watch the video and I will tell you if I think it's rage bait. But clearly, he is getting a little dislike bombed, and people are saying it's rage bait, and a lot of people are saying he has good points. I have a lot of people tell me he has bad points, so I want to see what he's talking about. Shout out to the homie Endeavor. Let's just see what happens.
These Wuthering Waves are kind of weird to me. On one hand, I can describe them as fast-paced and possibly looking even cool, but on the other, not very interesting to actually engage with to me.
Okay.
They have this strange, been here, done that aroma to them with each new iteration, including Hecate. I'm not 100% sure if I'm even pronouncing it right, but when it comes to that new hologram, they've got a bunch of drone things they use to shoot at you, and blades they throw at you, in addition to their dancing melee attacks. But it doesn't feel very different from me fighting Sentry Bot, who's using his wing blades, drill, and miniguns.
I agree.
He doesn't feel any different from Fallacy, who's using a hammer and fists. That just seemed weird to me. Don't get me wrong, they're solid overall, but they lack that extra oomph to be memorable and interesting.
Tech said this on the podcast, and it made perfect sense, and I think this is why I didn't like this boss. And honest, I'm not... Guys, I think the 1.0 holograms clear the 2.0 holograms. Again, I don't know if it's because the field is exactly the same, but I think the 1.0 holograms had way more cool stuff to them. The monkey had the multiple monkeys spawning out of nowhere. The Morning AX can stop you from moving. Tempest Memphis had multiple things coming at you at once. You're pretty much fighting two bosses, right? To me, the 1.0 things had way more depth to them. These genuinely just feel like they just feel annoying. And what Tech said on the podcast, I'm going to paraphrase that when we did with Gotcha Smack and Saint and everyone, was that in a game like Elden Ring, you're able to beat the boss on the first try because it provides to you all of the attack patterns, while, like, for example, Hecate, whatever the fuck you want to call this dude, there are times where he literally just does random attacks that you have no idea about. And you could be fighting him for 5 hours, about to kill him, and then he pumps out something random you don't know. So it's like, it just feels like a level of RNG that's not there. I would rather have a boss present to me all of their moves. I could see all of the things that are recurring, and then after that, I could dodge and see if I'm good or not. And it's like, okay, that's good boss design. But throwing out something random makes it whack. Fair, but it makes it boring? I don't necessarily agree with that. 2.0 Holograms more cinematic versus deep complex encounters. Very, very agree. Big agree. I beat her on first try. Oh, so did I. I beat her on the second try with Carlotta, of course. Like, yeah, because I'm fucking different, and Carlotta's easy as hell, right? But let's see.
They just kind of have that challenge going for them.
I gotta check my door.
But I'm not going to drag that on and just let you know what it feels like these fights are missing for me. And that's having any real depth outside of what is essentially just a core moveset.
Different. Hey,
and on top of that, the bosses aren't really doing anything outside of just attacking. They aren't maneuvering around you to find an opening. They aren't trying to counter you. They're not even reacting to you in any kind of way. And
I could already see people nitpicking this into saying, like, this is probably why he's getting negative response on the video. I haven't even looked at the comments yet, but that other guy flies around like crazy, but he doesn't fly around like crazy to kill you. He flies around to just kind of go away. Like his attack is, it's not maneuvering around you like, let's say, an Elden Ring boss, like the first boss, to try to get behind you and sneak up on you and kill you. No, like bro just flies away and does laser attacks, right? So it's not like the same. I already know people are gonna nitpick on this. If I read the comments, there has to be at least two of them.
Any movement they do
Contract
end up
moves,
doing
yeah,
is usually because that's just the animation of their current attack. It's not an actual decision being made to counter you or react to your movements. They're just brainlessly going through their combat rotation, much like you are. Well, you're not brainlessly doing it. You have to dodge.
He called me brainless.
I started thinking of ways they could add a bit more and improve a bit, but then I remembered, oh wait, there's a timer there. And that kind of changes a bit of the dynamic. These fights need to be designed with this short timer in mind. They have to be. And because of that, ensuring this boss is as efficient as possible to defeat has to be top priority, while still providing that challenge. After all, it would be frustrating if the boss moved around or did something that made them untargetable for extended periods of time with no counterplay. All the while, that timer is ongoing. Just with that in mind, there's already many of the things you just can't do with bosses now. Because the player isn't just fighting the boss, they're fighting the timer. Arguably the actual boss of the fight.
I don't know if the timer
can very easily become a detriment rather than a positive to the gameplay experience.
I don't know about the timer part, though. That I don't agree with.
To properly give examples of what I mean by mechanical depth,
I don't agree with the timer.
I want to bring up another game.
Or disagree with that statement. Yeah, I don't think the timer's an issue. I think, honestly, the only time I feel like I've had an issue with the timer where sometimes I just suck and I can't get Hecate down under the 3 minutes or over the 3 minutes, right? The timer's enough to kill hollows. Yeah, I genuinely do believe the timer isn't relevant. Never had an issue with the timer on a hologram. I agree. I've only had that issue once. Like, genuinely once, because I sucked. Hard to agree with the thing about the holo is that you can solo it with a single character if you want. Yeah. Wait, what's wrong with that? 5 minutes more than enough time for reasonable clear? Yeah. I don't... I think the timer point... I think if you can make a timer point about Weewa or TOA, I don't agree with the timer point here. This I'm not... Yeah. Let's say.
Which is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, coincidentally based off a gacha game of the same name. It's an action combat game in the same vein as Wuthering Waves, except your party is out on the field all at once, and you don't switch between different characters during fights. The core combat works a bit differently from Wuthering Waves fundamentally, even though it is action combat, so I'm going to be mostly comparing thematically here, don't worry.
I agree with you,
One
Dawei.
of the best fights in the game
I agree.
is Lucilius.
Also,
It's
good morning, brother.
the second hardest fight in the game, the hardest being his amped up version, which is a whole new fight on its own. Anyways,
What up,
here's
Rudra?
how that fight starts off right off the rip. He immediately barrages you with an ever-intensifying
God.
attack known as Paradise Lost. Positioning, time dodging, guards, and parries. You'll immediately find yourself woken up and doing everything in your power to survive.
Yo, what the
Note the
fuck?
clever use of patterned flashes from the edges of the arena as telegraphs for crossing laser fire AoEs.
Okay.
What's cool about this is
That's
how
actually
it
kind of
pressures you.
sick.
This goes on far longer than you might expect. And as I said, the barrages get faster and faster as it goes on before finally releasing and setting the tone
Yo,
for
this
the rest
game
of the
looks
fight.
kind of crazy. What the hell?
This won't be the only time he does this either. There will be DPS checks throughout where he starts charging up the ability again, but this puts him in a vulnerable state to be stunned easier, so you can stop him if you're fast enough.
Yeah.
You've already seen that attack, so this adds the pressure of trying to meet that check or face the wrath of Paradise Lost once again, each time more intense and more difficult to survive than the last. There's several more mechanics
This
we can
looks
talk about that
fucking
make this
sick.
feel like a
These
relentless
ads.
back and forth against a powerhouse, and that will be before we even get into phase 2, where things ramp up even more. But that's an end of the world tier battle that needs to be insane. So let's lower
This is similar to Hollow Rider. I don't know. The Inferno Rider. I think it's not a matter of you physically just can't see what's on the screen. Like Inferno Rider is not hard, right? Like when you fight him in the TOA, it's fine. The hologram is not hard. If you could just turn off the animations. Yeah, like it's really not that big of a deal. It's just the fact that you physically can't fucking see what's happening. That's the only issue. It's amazing as hell. Honestly, I should play it. Inferno is the worst boss I've ever fought in a gacha game. I agree, Selkie. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Yeah, but I mean, Wuwa bosses on super mid if you compare to a full price game. I do think that there has to be a baseline of not as difficult due to the fact that it is a gacha game. I would love for a boss to have raid mechanics, genuinely. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I absolutely get what he's saying, though. I do think they could... I think there is a fine balance in between making the mechanics difficult, but not too difficult for the casual player, right? But also at the same time, fucking bro, yo, cramp that shit up in TOA, like ramp that shit up, you know? Casuals ain't playing TOA, they be alright.
the stakes
Played
a
it's
bit
great.
with Pied A. Pied A relies on generators and drones to aid him in battle, and occasionally he'll summon those generators to the arena to give himself buffs to his damage and defense, and shift himself to a random element after they build up energy. So obviously you need to destroy them.
But
to keep
hologram
that
is
from
TOA, I
happening.
agree.
Only once you get to the
Absolutely
last
agree.
one, he sees what you're up to and immediately pulls that one above. He doesn't get the damage and defense up, but he will change his element depending on the color of the generator he pulls. This is how this fight turns into a pick.
Two-way, just like gear rotation check. I mean, I feel like it'd be cool making it more intense, though. If you don't want to put it in TOA, then I guess you could just put it in a hologram. I personally would like TOA to be more hard. I think TOA kind of sucks. You know, but again, that's a whole different thing. Relink was fun. This boss was a joke, though. Was it really? Really? I think the basic problem was that they didn't design the game around bosses, but the players. Bosses don't feel intimidating. It's feel like stranger when an actual boss fights back or something like boss-like. I think me and Red talked about this before. I would love to have a fight similar to the Jane Doe fight in ZZZ. I think the Jane Doe fight in ZZZ is one of my favorite. Like when you fight that motherfucker in the tower, that's one of my favorite gacha bosses of all time. I would love more things like that they could actually parry you, counter you, beat your ass, apply frazzle to you, apply a havoc debuff to you, like whatever the case may be. Like allow the player to kind of feel like PvP and apply those instances that they're adding that we could apply and put it back to us. Yeah, I mean, again, if you don't want to put TOA, fine, holograms, whatever. But I do think there can be a mode of hard content, but there does have to be a balance. It still has to be obtainable for casuals at some point.
Kind of battle.
Yeah, Red is goated. Everyone go follow my man Red New.
His moveset. It also
bosses can already apply status effects against you. No, but so what I mean more of is like, for example, like with Jane Doe, like she could like imagine if you can fight a character that is parrying you and then instantly apply Spectral Frazzle against you and then could fucking freeze your ass. Or some bullshit, right? Like, yes, like the big Glacial boss, right? Like, that motherfucker can freeze you, but he's also super easy. Like, I also know things that have been in TOA before, right? AX can apply that to you, but it's also not that often. Like, I do think, like, let's say if you're fighting a hologram, we'll leave TOA alone. Cam kind of lagging, is it really? If you fight, let's say, a hologram, and if you don't parry this attack, or if they parry you, you're instantly frozen. And it's like an actual thing. It's like an actual mechanic. Or a gauge meter. Like, you gotta break the shield before they do X, Y, and Z. I think there's just ways they could implement it and make it more challenging. But yeah, is the cam lagging? As much as I appreciate Z-Glaze doesn't hold the cams for relink. Oh, of course. Of course. I don't think... I like... Objectively, this game is going to have better boss mechanics than every single other one of these games. Also, was good, Raz. Good morning. Like, for sure. But I think there is something they could take. The sad thing is we have Crownless 6, which I've killed over 2,000 times because it's such a good boss, but every other holo is just so mid. Crownless 6 is a good boss. Is the fact she freezes you in place is stupid? You think it's stupid? I think it'd be dope. I think it'd be fun. Gorilla applies Arrow Chafe already? Does it? Arrow Erosion? Does it really? I've never experienced that in my fucking life. I'm going to be so honest with you. Yeah? I'm not trying to be funny with you. Like, how often am I, like, do I just clear it that fast? Really? Okay. Hectate. Oh, Hectate freezing us? I don't know, man. I've died to the stacks. Really? The enemy applies debuff. I've never experienced that. I know the Glacier one has. And, yeah, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. But I do think you could still implement it in a way where, like, I'm not saying it's an insta-death. But again, if you're fighting a boss and you don't trigger X mechanic or do X dodge or X parry, whatever the case may be, or break this gauge or a certain part, why can't they have like an enrage system for a boss and it applies even more? Does that make sense? Human Scar is very similar to Jane. He could parry you. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a holo. Yo, TJ, you're right. Human Scar does exist. Someone give Ethan a Final Fantasy 14 account and play Savage Raid. Dude, I would absolutely play a Final Fantasy 14 raid. I just can't get to the level of grinding it. I just can't put in that investment, but I would love it. Foreign bosses would be tired to find giant monsters. That's what I'm saying, Dawei. But yeah, okay, let's continue.
Those drones will have that effect as well. They'll be harassed.
I would love Final Fantasy 14 raid.
Their attacks are very telegraphed and they're very easy to destroy. You can ignore them, but you also use these drones during bursts to cover more of the battlefield and try to guarantee that what can be a one-shot hit if you're not fast enough. But that change in element also makes it where you can force it into an element your team actually has the advantage over, increasing the damage you deal throughout the fight. Just like with Lucilius, there's a lot more to talk about with this fight, but let's get to the point as to why I brought this up. Admittedly, partly I wanted a reason to talk about this game because I love it so much, but mostly it comes down to how much different these fights are thanks to mechanical depth. And these aren't just random mechanics, they're mechanics that accentuate player agency and decision making, all the while taking full advantage of the movement and action combat systems. It also goes as far as to characterize these fights, Lucilius being Accrington near godhood, and taking every chance simply to smite you out of existence.
Bro, why does this song go hard?
Rather than actually fighting you at your own level. Empire A being a war machine designed to wipe out entire squadrons with its drones and arena covering attacks.
It does look sick.
But what happens when we put a 5-minute timer on these battles? That ends up recontextualizing everything.
I think the timer's not a problem.
Is now a time waster attack. You're trying to stop these not for survival, but to save yourself from losing 20 seconds.
Timer's not an issue.
You just did a pushback move. Well, you just lost 5 seconds of uptime. Ugh, did he just jump to the edge of the arena afterwards to sweep a laser at you? Well, there goes another 5 to 10 seconds of uptime.
Okay, so the part about the video that I don't agree with is there is no mechanics in Wuwa other than the sentry really flying around. But even the sentry flying around, you could just dodge straight to him once he does the laser thing, so it's not that bad. But it's not like the Wii Nut. It's not like the Wii Nut in Genshin, where he's literally underground for 10 seconds and then in the air for another 20. I don't think the timer's a problem in holograms. I don't. I really don't think. I mean, it worked on me. The video's pretty cool. I think he is missing the. I don't agree with the timer stuff. I get what he's saying, but we don't have any type of like combat like mechanics or like restrictions like this that they do in like Grand Blue. So therefore, that part is kind of missing for me. Dude, timer started 60 minutes. That's an over 50-minute fight. Wait, what do you mean? Also, Joy, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. Good morning, man. Welcome in. What's the point of the timer? They want you to get it done under 5 minutes. Dawei may cry. Genuine question. Like, when's the last time the timer's ever been a problem for you in holograms? I think or 4 minutes, whatever it is. I think 4 minutes is enough to do your rotations, learn most of the combat, and they don't want to keep it going on for forever. Now, don't get it twisted. I think fighting the timer mechanics are annoying in TOA and WiiWa, and if you want to make a mode where it gets rid of the timer and it's just fucking fight this dude to the death, here for it. Absolutely here for it. But we have to be fair. I don't think the timer and holograms are an issue. I don't. Most of the time, you could deal out a sufficient enough damage in order for you to kill the bosses. The problem is people have an issue telegraphing the attacks for whatever reason, right? That I think the issue. Hologram Cheerless win. We should absolutely do that this week. Should do that. Like, what should be the next boss? More aggressive, more unique moves, more fatal damage? I'm not gonna lie to you. I think you should have a different background. Like, I think you could fucking make it all under the same thing and just have a different background. Also make it unique. But, yeah, I think more aggressive. I think more unique moves. I think maybe not having a one-shot mechanic. But, yeah, having an enrage mechanic would be pretty cool. Yeah, why not? Why not? I feel like holograms are more about learning to weave your rotations. And exactly, Tillium. I don't think it's a problem, but I know why it's there in the first place. One-shot mechanic is bad. Yeah, no, I don't want a one-shot mechanic. But I think an enrage mechanic should be dope. Isn't Tell Your Friends hologram? No. Today is the Gotcha Boot Camp. It's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern.
This no
Gotcha Boot Camp, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Like a challenging and intense battle. It just feels like my time is being artificially wasted based on the RNG behind what move he does.
Yeah,
Much
this
like
part he's
Hitachi,
lost me on.
If the RNG is not on your side, she can spam moves that often put you in positions where all you can do is sit back and dodge and make no real progress in the battle. And I think that's why there's no mechanical depth in Wuthering ways to differentiate these battles in the same way,
cool
even though I feel there should
That'd be so dope, Nando.
There should be something
Genuinely.
there to ideally mechanically accentuate the combat system in unique ways per fight, like Grand Blue Fantasy does with this combat system. I want to reiterate that I'm comparing these games thematically, though, not gameplay-wise, since a lot of these mechanics in Grand Blue Fantasy wouldn't really mesh well with Wuthering Waves combat system. That timer very easily stifles the depth and creativity they can probably try and get out of these fights. And let's be real here, they're not really designed to be beaten in 5 minutes. They're more ideally likely designed to be beaten in around 3 to 4, maybe 4.5 by the average participant. You want to have at least some leg room, since you can't expect the player to have 100% damage uptime throughout the entire fight, further limiting how much you can really stuff into these engagements. But this could be me just making excuses for the game. The truth is, the timer probably isn't the main reason these fights don't feel great to me.
I agree.
At least not by itself.
Yeah.
I think it more so has to do with the solution they seem to have to make sure these fights fit into that timer while being challenging. And that's to simply just have the boss attack. Literally nothing else but just attack. But that by itself isn't bad. That sounds like a boss that's characterized by being super relentless and aggressive. But that's every boss. And even then, the issue comes up that the majority of these attacks are designed to be on target, meant to be time dodged, and time dodging is how you solve almost every attack. When that's every fight, I'm sorry, that starts to feel the same to me. Especially since almost all these attacks...
I mean, I get that. I don't think that's an unfair point.
Positioning and very little parryable attacks in the overall boss package for some reason.
Like the Sentries thing where he goes on the ground and you have to get behind his shield, that actually, in theory, is cool, but I think it's executed poorly. But I don't think he's necessarily wrong to say that at the end of the day, it's kind of like dodge and parry, right? There really is no kind of like enrage or anything like that. You know, I don't know if you know this, but Wu's best players play the game as if bosses are punching bags. I can link you a video of some clear and TOA current boss without the boss being able to finish a second attack. You can send it. I'm down. I've seen times where they glitch the boss, they glitch Inferno Rider to just sit on the wall the whole time, you know? Yeah, Hectate and the AL fucking laser beams. Yeah, positioning feels horrible in the game due to the lock on, even worse on mobile. Yeah. I think Scar would be a cool boss for Hologram, but who knows, he's going to get back in the story. Scar would be really cool for Hologram. Yeah, I don't necessarily... Listen, I think he's makes sense. I think it would really be cool if they introduce cooler mechanics, but also it is a gacha game, and I just don't know, grounded in reality, how much they could really introduce, you know? Genuinely. Yango was right all along. Yo, was good. Was good, headshot. Yango was right, 100%. All right, Ben Selkie, I'll pull this up after. Thank you. Yango was right, boys.
Actually, kind of surprised when there is one. Oh crap, I just parried something. I didn't have to dodge. When Hekate does her spin to win move, I saw this the same way I saw Palacy spamming his hammer down at me for AoE attacks.
Oh, I think it's a little
Which is the
different.
same solution to Sentry Bot jumping away from me and hailing me with a Gatling fire.
Sentry, you could
Spam time dodge.
I mean, the other one you could
Which to me
counterattack a
doesn't
lot more.
really feel right. It feels like there should be a little bit more to it than that to me. If you took out the laser on one of Hekate's combos and just made it where she punches first and then kicks, that actually wouldn't even change anything. I'd actually dodge the exact same way. Same for her other attacks with her summons, since they're all animated to be part of a combo.
Bro, hit that intro.
Meanwhile,
Yep.
Ace drones, I can use positioning or destroy them on top of dodge, and they also do more than just shoot at you. They complicate the battlefield to ensure hits or proc status debuffs on you. They act independently, and we even provide cover for the boss.
Dude, this
until
makes
it's
me want
time
to
for
play
a
this
coordinated
game.
strike.
Bro sold
Take
me
them
on
out,
the game.
The boss loses a lot of its
What the
advantages,
hell?
and the mechanics become simpler to manage.
Holy
It's
shit.
why destroying them can be beneficial and makes a difference. They're not just there to be choreographed into a combo and then disappear again. Take them out Hekate, and all that happens is I press the dodge button less. I would go on about the hologram fights on a more individual level, but I feel like I just wouldn't really be saying much. I'd just be sitting there describing what the attacks look like. The bosses themselves.
I think you
don't
should
really
do that,
function all
May.
much
I think you
different
should do
from
that
each
for
other.
sure.
It's like
Absolutely.
it's like I'm playing a fighting game online, but there's only one other player who's online. And I keep jumping into them, but they keep showing up as a new character. Only they just keep spamming the attack button on assisted mode over and over again while
Yeah, I don't know. It's fun from everyone I've heard playing it. It looks great. Guys, I would be down if it doesn't kill the viewership. I'd be down to do a playthrough of it. Field attacks cool unless they're Inferno Riders. Granblue Reeling can mostly be resolved with either Vayne Shield and Dodge. It suffers from the same issue too, with the occasional one shot if you don't follow mechs. I think the point though of the video is the fact 47 dislike, bro. I'm about to give him a like. I think the point of the video is the fact that there still is those mechanics. Can it be negated? Yes, but those mechanics are there, right? In these guys, like I think the Monkey's the best hologram they've made. I think the Monkey's great. I think Tempest Memphis is good. The Heron was. I think all the 1.0 like holograms are just substantially better. Like I think those. Yes, it's parrying and dodging pretty much the whole time, but they feel way more interesting. Crownless, like they feel way more interesting. Crownless is go to 100%. These new holograms do not give me the same sense of joy. They kind of feel like a chore, and I don't think it's like fatigue. I really don't. I do think part of it is absolutely the arena. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, I want to see how they could do it. They could fix it with Hollow 7. Yeah, Hollow 7. Right, exactly. Not really a fan of scripted boss mechanics. That's just because a chore I've died 10 times to it. Not that isn't a way to properly implement it. Yeah. His complaint is the bosses fall into a pattern that you can memorize and it can get stale. Well, no, I don't think that's, I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but like, I think you look at Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a game where like, you can get into a rhythm and could it be stale? But I think Elden Ring, Dark Souls, they do a great job with those bosses. I think my problem, at least, and his problem to me is like there's just no mechanics, right? Like if you played a raid in any other video game, it's not just always a DPS check. DPS checks can be a mechanic, but that's not the main purpose of the raid. Sometimes you have to drop a ball here. You need to break this shield. You got to clear this wave of ads. You have to hit this portion of the person's thing before they become enraged. Like there's mechanics there, right? And so I think he's saying there lacks depth in that way. So yeah, they're with too cinematic. I agree. I think the problem I have with the boss in the Woo is the lack of approaches besides the base mechanics. Pairs are cool, but they're based off opportunity, not strategy. But that would be too much for the game. Yeah, I think again, it comes down to the point of trying to balance it. Yeah, our PGR bosses have mechanics as well, so I think it will come. I don't know about PGR bosses. I can't speak on it, but yeah. I don't think this video is bad at all.
Taking my attacks.
If you think this is rage baiting, you're a fucking idiot. Straight up. If you think this is rage baiting, you are fucking dumb. I want to make that perfectly clear. I want to check this dude's comments after, because this is not rage baiting. This is the most nice, fucking respectful critique video I've ever seen. I'm 20 times harder on Wuwa and Genshin. You know? like this is not rage baiting. Yo, what's good, Ares? How you feeling, brother? This is not rage baiting at all.
The fights themselves are tough. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but that's really all they kind of got going for them.
It's just a good discussion. I agree.
The only reason why they are tough is because of sudden one-shot attacks that can come from off-screen, or what I like to call knowledge checks, which are attacks that you wouldn't.
His videos are good analysis, what makes combat good in GBR rather than the Chris and the Wuwa. I think there's way too much. I do think there is way too much focus on GBR as opposed to like really kind of giving specific examples of what to fix. But I think in itself, I don't think the conversation is bad. But it absolutely is more of a GBR.
Intuitively understand or see coming.
Really was
unless
fun.
you've already seen the conditions beforehand.
Could you create discussion?
Like when Bouncy does his shoulder check and you're far away afterwards, he does 2 hammer swings and then stomps the ground with the shockwave. But if you're close after the shoulder check, he skips the 2 swings and does the exact same stomp animation. But there's a second delayed shockwave after the first. So if you saw the other stomp first, you intuitively dodge this one like you saw him do before. It's the same animation, there's no additional tells. Not expecting, you'll need to do a dodge again for the other half of the wave. Well, now you know for next time. Time to reset. You just got one-shot it. Stuff like that just makes it feel like I'm just kind of playing a memorization game rather than actually understanding and engaging with the boss. Especially since, like I said, they all have the exact same aggressive style. Anyways, the bosses outside of the holograms of 2.0, they're not really any much better.
I can choose like in Chroma.
Holograms are at least not bad. These ones actually are bad. Lorelei has...
So here, hold on, wait. I'm going to pull you up, and I'm going to pull up you, Primo. I got you. See, this is a genuine critique of the game that isn't based off a problem. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with the boss in the Woo, but that doesn't mean you cannot address the potential issues. Also, the word is actually neutral if you didn't know. Neutral? Yeah, I don't disagree. Genuinely, how is that bad? Because it can get boring when, like, we're 10 holograms deep in and it's just a memorization game as opposed to, like, skill, you know? Some people like it. Some people like it, and that's fine. But some people don't. He doesn't. And I mean, listen, Hectate feels like a memorization. It doesn't feel like a boss fight. Like it doesn't feel like a boss. You know, stagnation. But you can see the shockwave though. Yeah, I mean, look, that particular critique, like, it is what it is, but it does feel like memorization though. So what I'm getting from these bosses don't do different mix-up. It's always the same combo. No, I didn't interpret that from this video. Is he saying that the single boss is repetitive or the bosses move similar to each other? They're all just dodging and parrying. Not only that, I complete the fight with Mavic and Silali, but Wu bought this. But yeah, bosses that is just remember the movesets. Yeah, I feel like remember the movesets are a little. My interpretation of this video is he wants actual mechanics. He wants mechanics in the game. He doesn't just want to be memorization and parry. I think it's because of the level of punishment. Usually moves don't one-shot you, but in Hollow 6, 80% of the moves are instant dead, making an unfun experience. For sure, if it doesn't one-shot you and it leaves you down to fucking 10% health, you know? He wants a PvP-like boss in a fighting game. I wouldn't say a PvP-like boss, but like just a boss with mechanics.
One big bubble she throws at you, 3 small bubbles she throws at you, and the slash combo. For some reason, she's not utilizing the water beneath for you guys or the stars at the top of the chamber. Maybe she just never did with me, and I just have bad RNG with her, but that just seems super odd for me. You could easily characterize her battle with these options. Like, if she uses the water to push and pull,
exactly,
off, throwing the character off balance. You can time a character switch to get a parry and save that character from getting hit, taking advantage of that character switch system outside of just going through a rotation and rewarding the player for
not attacking brainlessly and dodging and parrying.
As for the Dragon of Dirge,
I like this boss.
I don't even know what this guy does. He kind of just sits there and takes up the ass every time I fight him. Hey, good music. Here, I do want to say this and add on to this. I don't think you need mechanical depth.
Bro, hit us with a jacket. Honestly, respect.
At least not absolutely. It helps, and I think you should still strive for it. It can only, if you do it right, it can only really enhance your combat in ways that aren't really done in other places outside of that boss fight. But it's not a super duper requirement. Okay, I'll say that right there. And there's another way to do it, and I think that they were on the way of doing that with the 1.1 boss design. I thought they were, at least. And that's with an emphasis on character to define the battle. If they just tightened up and improved on a lot of the bosses and ideas they had going on here, I think they would have been on to something I probably wouldn't be saying a lot of what I'm saying here.
Okay.
That it feels like I'm fighting the same boss over and over again, just with a new moveset to memorize. One of my favorite fights to this day still is Crownless.
Yeah.
That's because he feels like I'm actually fighting something that at least has some cogs turning.
That's like it brings the comfort. True.
You, weaving through your attacks, or sizing you up and waiting for you to make a move.
That was clean.
He attempts to create openings and capitalize on them. If you get too aggressive, he'll attempt to counter.
Yeah.
He feels like an actual character making active decisions in the fight and reacting to your moves. Again, not just attack like a freaking robot. And when you get to phase 2, he doesn't just expand his moveset, he changes it in a meaningful way. Now
this is probably the best design boss in the game.
In both reach and combo length. There's also now parable attacks that start appearing. and only during this phase does he get a stagger bar. He's also
Yep.
a lot more aggressive, but despite that increased aggression, he's mostly just matching your aggression.
Yep.
If you stop, oftentimes he'll stop too and see what your next move is before deciding to make the next action. He's not just spamming the attack button.
He's
brainlessly.
cooking.
That
He's
shift
cooking.
from proactive to reactive behavior, then back again throughout the fight does a lot, I feel.
Was good, Montrose. I was just thinking that doesn't that require Kuro to implement AI movesets for each boss? I feel like that's gonna take a lot of memory space. Maybe. Absolutely, maybe. Also, welcome in, Josh. Good morning, brother. Sure. I mean, I don't think it has to be done every single boss. I just feel like, doing it more than one singular boss would kind of make it feel special. It doesn't know that you're doing. It's not at all. It's just Magic Entry. It's literally scripted. It's just better scripted. That too. Regardless whether it's like AI or just scripted, I feel like you could implement this every now and then.
Not only am I shifting how I engage with him through the fight, he's shifting how he engages with me throughout the fight, which in turn forces me to shift again. The way I engage might not be completely different from other fights, but that's not what I'm saying is a problem. The way I engage with Lucilius versus Pilot A isn't completely different. But because of that characterization of Crownless, there isn't a single fight in the game I can describe like Crownless. No one else does what he's doing here.
Yeah.
The 2.0 holograms, though, everyone is just relentless.
If it's better, why not ask more for it?
gameplay
I agree.
wise. They
I agree.
kind of have some character. Hekate is a ballerina, for example, but that's just basic. That's just attack animations. That's not character in how I engage the boss and how the boss engages with me. Changing the animation for the attack and the fight doesn't change because, like I keep saying, the boss isn't doing anything but just attacking. And like I keep saying, that's not a problem by itself, but when I can do that with just about every fight in the game, or at least almost every fight, I start to feel like I'm just going through the motions. Just go through my rotation and dodge differently per boss. At the end of the day, I feel like I can just say the bosses just not for me. It's boring and honestly a little tedious and exhausting with just how deceptively straightforward they are to play. Anyways, let me go ahead and just summarize. The issues I have are that
Timers can be a detriment to the experience, almost no depth to the character involved, so I take advantage of the combat. Yeah, I don't agree with the timers. I think the timers is not really a big deal. Also, I don't know who the fuck earlier said that his critique was because he couldn't make it to the second round of Hollows. I don't know if you watched the video or not, but if you did, you're fucking dumb. Because that is absolutely wrong. Was it you? Was it you, Char? Was it you? I did Primal. What the fuck? Like what did you watch the video? Like, did you actually watch the video or no? Bro, that's the yeah. Oh my god, bro. I think sometimes this community is just fucking cooked.
That the timer is stifling, and there's almost no depth in both characterization, gameplay-wise, or in terms of mechanics. These feel like the same fight, different colors. The solutions are, well, bring in that characterization and try putting in some mechanics that challenge and take advantage of the combat system in meaningful and satisfying ways.
Why bosses feel repetitive in Wuthering Waves is because there's so much focus on dodge and parry, tricky animations and attack setups that are designed to make you think twice. ZZZ bosses aren't any more interesting, but players aren't caught in places they can't dodge often. So focus is taken away from being reactive. It is more being proactive and tightening up where you fix rotations. Yeah, I think that's a perfect summary. I think it's a perfect summary of the difference between the two bosses, 1000%. And yeah, I think this video is not bad at all. Bro was chill the whole time. There's literally nothing wrong with this video. Nothing about this is rage bait. And I mean, if you want to nitpick at the fact that maybe at some points he said the boss doesn't move, but then like Sentry moves, like by all means you could do that. But like if you're not understanding what the guy is saying and his fucking interpretation of the bosses are just kind of, at the end of the day, it's parry and attack, and then the counter argument to that I'm sure we'll probably see in the comments in a moment is, well, that is the game mode. Like, that is Wuwa. Wuwa's parrying and dodging for sure, but you can still add mechanics. Like, Destiny 2 is a looter shooter, but they still add mechanics that don't just include shooting something, right? Like, for raid bosses and whatnot, like, or just general activities. Like, you can add more depth to the combat. So, I don't know, man. I don't think this is a bad video. Again, I think the timer argument out the window. We would TOA for sure. But listen to his argument and perspective versus trying to prove him wrong from the beginning. I fucking hate that shit, man. I fucking hate that shit. It's so annoying, and the community needs to fucking chill out with that. And I'm not even just trying to single you out, Primal. Genuinely, I like, God bless, bro. You're chill. You could be here. I like. I'm not gonna ban you or some bullshit. Like, what the fuck? But like, it's just so dumb. Like, why was everyone so protective? Like, holy
that
shit.
Example I had with Lorelei. I shouldn't be fighting Hecate the exact same way I'm fighting Sentry
It's
Bot.
so
And I
annoying.
shouldn't be fighting the Sentry Bot the exact same way I'm fighting the teddy bears in the open world. The two way
Yeah.
fights aren't all bad. They just feel the same handling because of it. And like I said, I'm willing to accept that maybe they just not for me.
Nah, bro, Wu was EOS, man. You're wrong. I went ahead and changed the title. Didn't realize it was rage bait. The boss of Wuthering Waves is still better than any of those that got you on the market. I hate this fucking argument. Holy fuck, bro. Oh my god, man. Yeah, I took a shit on Tuesday, but then I took a diarrhea on Friday. So, you know, at least it wasn't a diarrhea. Holy fuck. Holy shit. People say bosses Wu can't get too forgettable because of the casual audience. Well, I agree with that. I also think it's possible to make bosses yeah, I agree. This is a very good take. Bro, right down to our descent to Carl. I'm always up for crazier bosses, for sure. Hecate will react to your position relative to attacking quarterly. If you're far away, you'll have a heart attack. This is true for phase 1. Saying Hecate doesn't feel as interactable is definitely not it. Oh, okay, let's read this. I'm actually kind of curious. Hecate will react to your position relative to it and attack accordingly. If you're far away from it, will have way harder attack patterns that do more damage. Approaching it from behind will always give you a recognizable pattern. When the fuck do you approach this shit from behind? This is true for phase 1 and phase 2. Saying Hecate doesn't feel as interactable is definitely not it. You can reflect back its projectiles right at them in phase 1 and absolutely melt its stagger bar with decent damage. Well, melting the stagger bar with decent damage is nothing relative or correlating to the argument, so that's already out of there. Also, when you could reflect your projectiles back? When? How the fuck do you do that? I've never seen that. I've never seen that before. Just because they are the best doesn't mean you can't improve. I agree with you, Nando. I agree with you. Yes, the fucking projectile is a parry. It's a parry. Oh, so it's a hidden parry mechanic that's not told in the game. This is fucking Jesus Christ. It's also the same for fallacy, as the ball projectiles when they start flying can be reflected back at the boss. The bosses have definitely improved over time since the 1X era. I disagree, especially with how terrible Inferno Rider Hologram was and how it's literally just a massive damage button. Inferno Rider is the it's the exception to the one rule. You can actually stagger Hecate, Fallacy, and Sentry without destroying the stagger bar if you get specific parries. Main flaw with the Wu bosses right now is that you don't actually have a special connection to any fight outside of it being hard. An example of special connection of boss elevating it would be Virgil in DMC3. You fight him 3 times, but every time it's always mixed up and the stakes keep ramping up. Wu doesn't have that since most of the bosses are just mindless TD or robos. The only fight with stakes in it is Scar, but he has no hologram fight. How does Scar have stakes? I don't know. The only fight with stakes, blah, blah, blah. Bringing up Grand Blue Relink is definitely not a bad thing since the raid fights are the best part of the game. But Wu's approach to it being straightforward is not bad. Relink boss can feel gimmicky. Yeah, I don't know if I absolutely agree with this. My bias from having seen so many agree with some of the takes. Just agree with the great presentation. Solid video. Bro, I don't know, but he could parry you in a human form? I don't know, man. Great video. It's not rage bait at all. I legit enjoyed it. Yeah, I think people are just stupid. Let this man have his opinion. It's not a bad opinion. I'll see you guys in the next one.